My entitled future mother-in-law threw my family heirloom engagement ring down a storm drain. Now she's facing assault charges because she went totally insane. I have seen a lot of crazy people in my life, but my potential future mother-in-law is the absolute worst person I have ever met. I have been with my boyfriend for 8 months now. For the first few months, everything was amazing. He is the sweetest and most caring man I have ever been with. He likes to surprise me with fun dates and flowers for no apparent reason. The biggest surprise of all, though, was when I met his mother. I met his parents for the first time a few months ago. The first thing Camille said to me when I walked in the door was, "Are you Jewish?" I am not, and I am not particularly religious, but I was raised Catholic. Once I told her this, it was the beginning of the madness. She immediately stopped talking to me and acted as if I didn't exist. I was extremely nervous about meeting my boyfriend's parents, so this broke my heart. I was determined to make a good impression, so I kept trying to connect with her. This was a huge mistake and I should have just let it go. Once we were all seated for dinner, she finally decided to try and make conversation. I have naturally red hair and she asked me if my parents had the same color. I told them that I had the same hair as my mother. She then had the audacity to ask me, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" I had no idea how to respond and just sat there stunned. Seeing my reaction, she said, "Don't worry, I will just ask my son about it later." I looked over at my boyfriend, who seemed equally as shocked, but he didn't say anything. She then started to go on about my hair being too curly. She told me that I really need to learn how to run a brush through my hair and think about my appearance more when I am out with her son. Then, when I didn't eat much at dinner, she gave me her version of a compliment. I was told it was good that I was watching what I ate, because it would be a shame if I got any bigger. This was just my first meeting with this woman. As soon as I got into my car, I burst into tears until I got home. My boyfriend was texting me and apologizing for his mother's behavior, but the damage was done, and I told him I needed time to think. He went into apology overload after this and started sending flowers to my office every day and leaving me messages begging me to talk to him. I finally agreed and we went out to dinner. He told me he spoke with his mother about her inappropriate comments and he swore it would never happen again. With this reassurance, I decided to give it another chance. Fast forward 2 weeks to when he invited me to come to a family birthday party. This time I would also be meeting his sisters and grandparents. His grandparents and sisters are awesome people. They asked me normal questions about my job, family, and friends. His mother seemed to be avoiding me throughout the evening, and honestly, I was okay with that. I went to grab something from my purse and noticed that it was not where I left it. I looked everywhere but I could not find it. I went and asked my boyfriend and he began to help me look. He then got a strange look on his face and he quickly went upstairs. I could then hear a lot of yelling begin upstairs. He came back down holding my purse after a few minutes and told me that we were leaving. Once we got in the car, I asked him what was going on. His mother had taken my purse so that she could see my driver's license. She intended to try and run a background check on me. He told me she had told him this earlier but honestly had thought she was joking. I thought that it would be best if I avoided any of his family functions for the time being. This worked out great for a while and he went to any of his family parties alone. He would ask me each time before leaving if I was sure that I didn't want to go, but I always declined. Last week his family had their family reunion and he asked me to please come with him. I was very reluctant, but considering there would be so many people present, I didn't think she would pull anything. When we got there, everything was going great. I met his extended family and got to catch up with his sisters. His mother did seem to be shooting me death glares all night, but I brushed it off. Soon she came over and joined a table I was seated at with his sisters and some cousins. The conversation was pleasant as we were talking about his sister's children. His sister has a daughter who is 12 and is the same age as my niece. I then showed his sister a picture of my niece on my phone. His mother took a look at the screen and began to laugh. She told me she hopes that if me and her son ever have children, they don't look like my niece. My niece is beautiful, by the way, and she is only 12 years old. What kind of monster attacks a 12-year-old child's appearance? This was my breaking point and I went off like a volcano. I started to scream at her and told her she was the most evil person I had ever had a disadvantage to meet. I told her as I ever did have children with her son, she could be certain she would never meet them because hell is too far to travel to. I am not 100% certain exactly everything that I said, but from what his younger sister later said, it was epic. She began to play the victim and wailed that I had just misunderstood her joke. My boyfriend came rushing over at this point and she threw herself into his arms, telling him I am a horrible woman and he needed to throw me out right now. He told her that wasn't going to happen and to stop making a fool of herself. She seemed to accept this for a moment and sat back down. She just kept sobbing that I just didn't understand how to take a joke. Then something in her snapped as she noticed something that my boyfriend was holding in his hand and began to have another meltdown. I didn't understand what was happening at this point and just stood there watching a grown woman pitch a fit like a toddler. None of what she was saying made any sense to me as it was mostly just incoherent screaming, but I did pick up on many derogatory comments directed my way. My boyfriend then told me we were leaving and told me to grab my things. As I started to get ready, Camille made a lunge for my boyfriend's hand and grabbed the small box he was holding. She then looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You will never have this ring, you little BH." She ran outside and threw the box down a storm drain. Turns out that my boyfriend intended to propose to me. He had just obtained his grandmother's ring while we were at the reunion. His grandmother is completely heartbroken because now her ring is down a storm drain instead of continuing on in the family as she had always wanted. I don't know where to go from here. I am devastated, confused and exhausted. Can I ask him to never see his mother again? Is that my place to say something like that? I am sorry that my story is so long, but I needed to get this rant off my chest.
My wife is emotionally sucking me dry and spends my money all to herself, so I am leaving her tomorrow and I couldn't be happier. My wife and I have been married for 10 years. We dated for 6 years before that and I got a lot of pressure to get married from my parents, her parents, her. Something in my gut said that this wasn't right. I called it cold feet and did my best to ignore it. We got married. Pretty much the moment the ink was dry on our marriage license, things went south. On our honeymoon, she did nothing but complain I hadn't booked a nicer hotel. In the following months, she wanted a new apartment, a new car, gifts, jewelry, and handbags. It was never enough. It's like the moment she got the ring, it stopped being about me and became about what I could give her. I am a doctor. I make good money. Not good enough to support the kind of lifestyle she wants though. We don't have intimacy anymore. We don't laugh. We don't talk about anything but money. We have no kids. She said she wanted them before marriage and then changed her mind. And our home looks like a showroom. There is no warmth, joy, or even comfort here. I hate it. I hate her. I am a 45-year-old physician and I have barely enough savings to sustain us for 3 months. I want to retire someday. I want to enjoy my life. I rented a cool apartment across town, in a less desirable neighborhood, and there's a stack of IKEA furniture waiting for me to set it up there. The lease is up on the Mercedes my wife pushed me to lease next month and I will be replacing it with a used Prius. I'm starting therapy next week. I have a divorce attorney who has assured me that the prenup we signed before marriage means I won't have to pay alimony. I hope to leave the higher paying job that my wife insisted I take for something with fewer hours, sometime in the next year. I am going to ask out the pretty barista who flirts with me every morning. I'm telling her first thing tomorrow. I'm expecting her to cry and beg and demand we try therapy. I don't want any of that. This was never right, and I'm only sorry it took me so long to realize it. I'm sorry I've wasted so much of my life being married to a woman because I thought it was the right thing. I am so excited. Update 1. Usually when I wake up, I go for a run or a bike ride. While I'm gone, my wife gets up, gets dressed, gets a smoothie going. Whatever. This morning I paced the kitchen, rehearsing what I had to tell her over and over again. When she finally came down, I felt oddly calm. I wasn't expecting to be panicked exactly, but apprehensive at least. I told her I needed to speak to her. She gave me an aha and didn't look up from the coffee machine. Then I just came out with it. I told her I was leaving and that I wanted a divorce, that we hadn't been happy in a long time, and I felt as though she didn't care about me or my emotional needs. Pretty much instantly, the gaslighting began. She cried that I never get her flowers anymore, that I don't do enough to support her, that I don't care if she's happy. I brought up the fact that I suggested therapy over a year ago and she agreed, but then made excuse after excuse not to go. I brought up the times she completely ignored the budget we worked on. I told her how it made me feel when she dismissed me when I tried to tell her how I was feeling. The crying escalated then, along with begging for a chance to make this right, to go to therapy, that she would be better. It went like I thought it would go, and I felt absolutely nothing. I don't care anymore. Whatever I once felt for her is just dead and gone, and she might as well have been a second cousin sobbing about her marriage for all the connection I felt to it. Eventually, I just got fed up and walked out. She has been blowing up my phone with calls and texts which range from angry to begging to threatening. I started getting calls from her mother and mine too, but by the end of the day, I spoke briefly to my mother, and calmly explained that I was sorry she didn't hear it from me, but my wife was sucking me dry financially and emotionally and I couldn't do it anymore. She was surprisingly supportive. I'm currently in my new apartment. I unrolled the mattress in a box and went to Walmart for sheets. I ate Thai takeout for dinner at the kitchen counter and watched a bit of Netflix on my computer. I have everything I need for the next few days. My wife is getting served tomorrow. I keep expecting the sadness to set in, but it hasn't. I feel like 1,000 pounds are off my shoulders and suddenly my future is full of possibilities. I'm going to travel. I'm going to try new restaurants. I'm going to take a job that actually makes me happy and proud instead of rich. I will ask out the barista, because despite his unpopular opinion she is both age appropriate, it's her family's business, and I do have the interpersonal skills to recognize the difference between customer service and actual connection. Cheers, everyone. I'm going to have a beer and then take a walk around my new neighborhood.
My sister slandered me in a Facebook post about hating her children when she refused to discipline them, so I smacked it right down by posting videos of them going wild and shamed her. My sister Angel claims to use hands-off parenting with my niece Sophia and nephew Parker. In actuality, Angel is entirely permissive and refuses to discipline them. She expects other adults to step in when Sophia and Parker's behavior is getting out of hand. For this reason, I asked Angel to get a babysitter for Sophia and Parker if she wanted to attend my 27th birthday. I love Sophia and Parker as their aunt, and at the same time, I want a peaceful evening to celebrate my birthday instead of dealing with Sophia and Parker's behavior, because I know Angel isn't going to discipline them herself. Angel acted understanding when I made this request and explained my reasons to her in person, but then she went online and made a Facebook post accusing me of hating Sophia and Parker and trying to punish Angel by only inviting our sister Jessica's kid Megan to my birthday dinner. Never mind that Megan is 17 and is practically an adult herself. Several of our relatives and mutual acquaintances called me out and said I was an asshole and was excluding a 10 and 7-year-old. I responded to Angel's post by sharing 2 videos of Sophia and Parker misbehaving while Angel did nothing. The first video was a recording taken by Megan, where Sophia and Parker were throwing tantrums and yelling at her. Megan was trying to calm Sophia and Parker down while Angel was on her tablet ignoring the situation. The other video was one that Angel took. Sophia and Parker were yelling and throwing toys at each other, and Parker even called his sister a bad word. Angel was laughing as if it were funny and was again doing nothing to discipline Sophia or Parker. I wrote alongside the videos that I love Sophia and Parker as their aunt, but at the same time, I want a peaceful evening to celebrate my birthday, and I don't want to be stuck disciplining Sophia and Parker because clearly Angel won't. Angel ended up not coming to my birthday at all. My parents told me that I was in the wrong for sharing those videos, because everyone's children have acted up, and posting those videos didn't accomplish anything besides embarrassing Angel. They also said I could have compromised by having a nobody under 18 rule for my birthday dinner. Megan would not be able to attend, but then Sophia and Parker wouldn't feel excluded. I do not see how that would be fair to myself or Megan. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to make compromises for my birthday dinner? Edit. I wanted to clarify some common concerns about the videos. Firstly, both my and Angel's Facebook are private, so the only people who are able to view the videos are people who either I or Angel have added as friends. A stranger will not be able to see them. Angel had already posted the video that she recorded of Sophia and Parker misbehaving, so I merely linked it. Megan had already posted the video that she recorded, just on a different social media platform. I am uncertain if Megan's social media is private, but no strangers will be able to view the videos from my and Angel's Facebook accounts. My future mother-in-law was jealous that I was dating her son and tried to prove that she was the only special woman in his life. So she tried to wear my wedding dress because she didn't want me to upstage her on my wedding day. When my fiancé and I were dating, I never got to meet his mom because she refused to see me. I heard from his sister that it was because she didn't want to meet the woman that stole her son from her, and I thought that was really weird. I told my fiancé about it, but he laughed it off and said she's just very protective. He was right, though I had no idea just how extreme her protection would get. When we got engaged, I had to meet her, and the first thing she said was, "I didn't think my son would settle for someone so fat." I was shocked. I was aware that I didn't have the body of Bella Hadid, but she literally looked like she ate the wedding cake before the wedding even happened. Granted, we looked like we were both the same size. I ignored her comment though because we were going to be family soon, and I just tried to be as nice as possible. Though I quickly realized that was a waste of time because she spent the entire night being overly possessive of her son. When we were eating, she started feeding him and called him a good boy every time he took a bite, and she was feeding him very small bites. Afterwards we watched a movie, so I didn't get to speak to my fiancé about it. But I realized I got new material to talk about because she swooped in and sat on my fiancé's lap before I even got to the couch. I gave my fiancé the what the F look and he just smiled and said, "Don't worry, she's just making sure you know who had me first." What? I couldn't even enjoy the movie because my fiancé had his hand on his mom's thigh and she was smirking the entire time. It was disgusting and I almost got up to throw up like 5 times. By that point I was surprised my fiancé even came to sleep in our bedroom and not in the guest room with his mom. I finally got the chance to talk to him and he said that this was totally normal and I shouldn't freak out about it. If anything, he joked about it, saying that I had some competition for his attention. I told him I shouldn't have to compete with his mom. He just shrugged and said that I should get some rest because I'm going wedding dress shopping with his mom the next day. I told him that I hadn't invited her. I only invited my mom and sister. He said that he didn't think it was fair his mom wasn't invited and she really wanted to go too, so he already told her she could. I was so pissed I couldn't even sleep well. At the bridal shop the next day, she kept making comments about every dress I tried on, like, "You might want to skip dessert tonight if you plan on fitting into that by the wedding. And you sure you want something so fancy? It's not really your style." Then, she started insisting that we choose a dress that was flattering for both of us. She said I should let her borrow it after the wedding, but she didn't forget to add an A if it even happens. I straight up thought she was trying to hijack my wedding and get married to her son. The problem was, we were the same size, so it's not like I could get a dress that didn't fit her. But then I realized that I could do that. I just needed to lose weight. So, I started working out and using Obvi Elite to help me lose weight much faster. I lost 3 pounds in 1 week and then 5 the next. It was only 8 pounds, but it was enough for my fiancé's mom to notice. She started making comments about me upstaging her on her special day, and said that I was crushing her dreams of borrowing the wedding dress. When my fiancé noticed her crocodile tears, he said I shouldn't starve myself for the wedding and tried to feed me bigger portions of food. I could see his mom giving me that Charlie Kirk smile the entire time, but I wasn't going to fall for her petty tricks. After consistently working out and taking Obvi Elite, I lost 30 pounds before the wedding. So, I went to get a wedding dress again. Alone this time. I actually couldn't believe what my body looked like in those dresses. It was a stark difference from when I went the first time. I quite literally had the same body as Bella Hadid. Well, not really, but I like to tell myself that. It was hard choosing a dress because I loved how much better these all looked on my body. But I ended up choosing a fit and flare wedding dress and kept it a secret, until I received the dress. My fiancé's mom threw a fit immediately. She said, "What's the point of me coming to the wedding if I'm just going to be outshined by some wannabe supermodel?" My fiancé hadn't seen my wedding dress but told me that I should return it. I was firm in saying no and I could see she wasn't happy about it. She decided to drop it, and suggested we go eat, and I thought she was trying to overfeed me again. I kept my guard up, but I didn't think anything of it when she excused herself to go to the bathroom. About 10 minutes passed and she still hadn't returned, and that's when both me and my fiancé knew something happened. He was worried for his mom, saying that she probably fell and got hurt, so he rushed to the bathroom. When he said she wasn't there, I knew exactly where she would be. I ran to my bedroom and I shrieked when I found her trying to squeeze herself into my dress. My fiancé heard me scream, so he came in, and while I was nearly having a panic attack he sighed in relief because his mom wasn't hurt. I went over because the dress was bound to rip from the way she was trying to pull it over her stomach rolls. She put it feet first, remember this. We were basically battling, with me trying to pull my dress down and her pulling it up. She said that the stupid thing won't fit, but that couldn't be possible because she's skinnier than me. I called her delusional because the dress couldn't go past her rolls. Meanwhile it fit me like a bodycon dress. In our fuss, we caused too much stress on the dress and it tore. I literally froze when I heard the rip. We both let go when that happened and the dress fell. Here's why I told you to remember that she put the dress on feet first. When it fell, I found out she wasn't wearing any underwear and I ended up seeing her whole wrinkly coochie. I let out the most blood-curdling scream and my legs almost gave out from shock, but then I realized that if I fell I would come face to face with it, so I jumped back. Mind you, My fiancé was still in the room, so he saw it too, and when she noticed, she said he came out of there so he could look. But she called me a pervert for looking. She then put some clothes on and I looked at my torn up dress and tried not to cry. But then I heard her telling my fiancé that their plan couldn't work anymore because his dumb fiancé decided to lose weight. I asked them what they were talking about and she was more than happy to tell me she was going to wear the wedding dress I bought, because neither of them wanted me to look better than her. My fiancé clarified, saying that he didn't want his mom to be humiliated in front of all our family and friends. But because I decided to work out and take Obvi Elite, I got skinny and the dress got torn beyond repair, so now it was useless, just like my engagement ring.
My in-laws look down on me for being a foster kid and constantly treat me like a hired help. Now they are begging me to help them because we are family, but I am done with them. I got married 9 years ago to my wife Jessica. I was a foster kid who was bounced around a lot because sometimes my bio mother would take me back, but she'd always end up losing custody again or placing me back. When she finally stopped trying, I was 11 and too old for most people who wanted babies or really little kids. So I aged out of the system without being adopted or finding a family. I had hoped when Jessica and I met that I'd be welcomed by her family. But that's not how it went. Took me years to figure it out though. They look down on me. They're not totally obvious about it, but I see it in the way they are with me versus the way they are with the other sons and daughters-in-law. Like asking them about Christmas plans but saying they didn't expect us to do anything else because I don't have a family. Or asking about the others' jobs and promotions but never me. Then acting so shocked both times Jessica or I mentioned I was promoted. There was a time when my sister-in-law mentioned a foster kid who won a scholarship to college and it made it into the local news. The whole family's reaction was, "Oh wow, a foster kid making it to college is so unexpected," and Jessica pointed out I went to college. They looked a little uncomfortable and I heard two of her siblings whisper something about Jessica and that story, so I assumed they believed she lied about where we met. They don't make an effort for my birthday. They make assumptions that I don't spend time with my kids. They assume any effort made by me is me doing it for Jessica and don't believe me when I say it's not. Yet they will always ask for my help with repairs around the house or assembling something because I'm good at that stuff. I have helped Jessica's parents and all her siblings at least twice. Once I realized that they really didn't like me and seemed to think less of me for being a foster kid, I did that stuff for Jessica and not for them. But then a few weeks ago Jessica's parents had issues with the stairs. I went and fixed them up. I spent hours working on one part and had to go and get extra materials. It was a whole thing. Some of the family came over while I was there and Jessica's parents made food for them. But nothing for me. When I asked them if there was any for me, they told me they didn't think I'd want to eat after working so hard. For hours, with no food in between. I told them they didn't think that. They simply didn't want to be polite to me and offer food after doing all that work for them. I was called out by Jessica's parents and her siblings. Jessica took my side as did some of the siblings' spouses. But I was called out again for not helping fix a shelf for one of Jessica's sisters and saying never again would I help any of them. They said family helps the family. I asked them when they ever treat me like family. Update. I decided I was done. I wasn't going to keep bending over backward for people who barely acknowledged me as part of their family. I told Jessica I wasn't fixing anything else for her parents or siblings. No more free labor for people who clearly didn't see me as one of them. She understood. She's always backed me up when it came to her family. But I knew it put her in an awkward spot. Still, she never asked me to change my mind. Sure enough, the requests kept coming. Jessica's sister texted me the next week, asking if I could come over and fix a shelf that was falling apart. I ignored it. Then her brother asked if I could help him put together a new grill he bought. The same deal left that message on read. They started to get the hint, but it wasn't long before I got another passive-aggressive lecture from one of her brothers about how family helps family. I told him straight up, "When have any of you treated me like family? You only call me when something needs fixing." That shut him up for a while. But it was clear things were shifting. We started getting fewer invites to family gatherings, and fewer texts from her siblings. Not that I cared all that much. I wasn't exactly dying to sit through another awkward dinner where they either ignored me or made backhanded comments about my background. But it still stung for Jessica. I could see it bothered her, even though she didn't say anything. Her family was slowly cutting us out. Then, a few months later, it was like the other shoe finally dropped. Jessica's parents threw a big family barbecue, and we didn't even get an invite. That was the first time something like that had happened. Jessica tried to brush it off, saying maybe it was a mistake, but we both knew better. She called her mom to ask what was going on, and her mom basically told her that I had made things uncomfortable by refusing to help the family anymore. They felt like I was being selfish and making it harder for everyone. Jessica fired back, saying if they ever treated me like family, maybe things would be different. That conversation didn't end well. From that point on, it was like we were officially on the outs. Jessica's siblings stopped reaching out altogether, and her parents only called her occasionally, never both of us. It was clear they wanted nothing to do with me anymore, and honestly, I was fine with it. The final nail in the coffin was when Jessica's dad had a health scare, and no one thought to tell us until after the fact. It was like they had fully made their decision. Jessica took it harder than I did, of course, but even she admitted that things had been strained for too long. She finally realized they were never going to accept me, and that hurt her more than anything else. So now, we're no contact with her side of the family. At first, it was weird. I think Jessica hoped they'd come around, that they'd reach out and try to mend things, but that never happened. It's been months, and honestly, I feel like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders. No more fake smiles, no more trying to prove myself to people who don't even care. Just me, Jessica, and our kids. That's the only family I need.